this is the Freshman College Knowledge Financial Literacy presented to the USC College Advising Corps, and we're going to go ahead and get started.
All right, again, thank you all for joining us for this financial literacy edition workshop for our Freshman College Knowledge Workshop. We just want to help you all understand a little better how money works after high school. And again, since this is a webinar, we can't see your faces, but if you have any questions or want to comment, please feel free to use the chat and Q&A function on the bottom of the screen. So let me start by introducing myself. My name is Carla, and I'm going into my third year of advising. I graduated from UCSB, which is my background, and it's really pretty. I graduated from UCSB in 2018, and I'm currently at USC pursuing my master's degree.
All right, thank you, Carla. And my name is Christina. I graduated from UC Irvine in 2018, and I will be continuing my master's degree at Cal State Long Beach in the fall. So I saw a couple of people are also going to UC Irvine, so I'm proud of y'all. I know that as a first generation college student, it was definitely difficult for myself and Carla to navigate a lot of things in college, and one of them was money. Since we are both first generation, we didn't really have anyone who was like telling us what we needed to know about financial aid and debit card and credit card and saving and all that. So that's what we're putting on this presentation to hopefully answer some of your questions as well. So like I said, it can be pretty tricky, especially once you get your financial aid award letter. Some of you are probably going to get money left over, getting deposited into your bank account. Maybe some of you are going to have to take out some loans. A few of you might have to get a job or two, or maybe all of the above. So this is why we're having this presentation. So like I said, if you have any questions, feel free to ask them throughout, and if not, we can answer them at the end. But we're just going to go ahead and get started. Next slide, please. Awesome. So the first thing we're going to do is give a little bit of financial aid term review. I'm sure that a lot of you may have seen these terms on your financial aid award letter, and maybe you were a little bit confused as to what they meant. So we're going to go ahead and give some quick definitions for y'all. So the first one is grants. So grants are free money, they're gift aid, and you do not have to pay them back. So they're the ones that we love the most in our financial aid award letters. Those can be seen as the Cal grants. Maybe some of y'all got the Pell grant or a university grant. For example, some specific universities will have the UC Irvine grant or the UC Santa Barbara grant. And so those are some of the terms that fall under that category of free money. You do not have to give them back. So if you have those, definitely you want to accept them if they didn't already accept them for you automatically. The next one is scholarships. So the scholarships are also similar to that gift aid free money. You do not have to give them back. These are usually done, usually get them depending if you got them through merit-based, maybe based off your academics, and they want to reward you for being scholars, or maybe you had a financial aid need, and so they offered you a scholarship as well. Again, this is free money that you do not have to pay back. So if you got some scholarships, that's awesome. It's only going to help you pay off your tuition and maybe some of your housing fees as well. The next one is your work study. Now, maybe some of you applied for work study, maybe some of you didn't while you were filling out your FAFSA or your California Dream Act. As for work study, these are funds. Maybe you'll see it on your financial aid award letter. Maybe it'll say something like work study offer amount $3,000. And this can vary per institution, but I'm just going to use $3,000 for it as an example. Those $3,000 you don't get until you get a job on campus. So that's the way work study works. They give you $3,000 offered to you, but you can't actually touch the money until you get a job, maybe working at the campus bookstore, and they'll use that money to pay you biweekly like they would for any other regular job. And we're going to talk more about the work study jobs and how they work and the pros and cons later on in the presentation, but that's an option that maybe some of you have, and you can decide whether or not you want to accept it. Now, the last one can be one of the trickiest ones and maybe the scariest one, and that's the loans, in particular the federal loans. So for those of you, you probably may have all qualified for federal loans. Maybe some of you are going to accept them, maybe some of you won't. But for those of you who are considering it or just want some more information on that, the federal loans is divided by the subsidized and the unsubsidized. So if you can see through the picture on the screen there, there's a little bit of a difference between them. The subsidized is the better option if you had to choose one, because the subsidized and the unsubsidized, the subsidized does not accumulate interest until 6 months after you've graduated. So the way that interest works is when you take out a loan, typically there's maybe around 5-6% interest with federal loans. that every month you would have to pay a little bit, and it keeps getting added onto a loan that you take out. So let me give you an example. If you take out a $1,000 loan in the fall of your freshman year, and you take out a subsidized loan, that means that there is no interest until 6 months after you graduated college. So if you took out $1,000 in the fall, and then in the spring you still haven't paid anything off, you still only owe $1,000. And then it's your second year in college, it's your fall semester, you still haven't paid a single penny for this $1,000 loan. You still only owe $1,000, and it goes on like that until 6 months after you've graduated. Whereas the unsubsidized loan, as soon as you take out those $1,000, you're automatically going to start having to pay the interest as well. So for the sake of the example, maybe you took it out in September in the fall semester, $1,000. Well, by October, maybe you now owe $1,002. And then by December, you owe $1,003. And then in January, $1,004. And it's going to keep slowly increasing until you paid off the full amount. So that's what you can see. The subsidized is probably a better option for you if you had to take out a loan. But both of these federal loans might still be better offers rather than getting out a private loan, which you may have to take off from a separate bank. The benefit of the federal loans, which is the subsidized and the unsubsidized, is that the interest rate is fixed, which means that it's not going to change. If you took it out for a 5% interest rate, you know that until you paid off, you're only going to pay the 5% interest rate. Whereas in a private loan that maybe you take out with Chase or Wells Fargo or whatever, that interest number can't change. It can fluctuate. So maybe you took it out for 6% in the beginning, but then if in a year they're like, oh, just kidding, it's now 8%. And then the year after that they say, oh, just kidding, it's 2%. And the year after that it's 12%. It may be a little bit too extreme, but you get what I'm saying. It can fluctuate a little bit and it's not very consistent, it's not stable. So we're gonna try and avoid that one the most. So again, just to recap everything, you wanna go grants is first, super free, we love that. Scholarships, super free, we love that. Work study, you gotta work for it, but you're still getting paid, which is neat. And then you wanna take out the loans. Go subsidized first, then unsubsidized, and then if you still have to, you can try maybe getting a private loan. But that would be one of your last resorts. And I think that's all that I have for the financial aid term review. Again, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the chat or ask them later.
All right, and here are some of the questions that are very common about receiving financial aid. The how will I get financial aid and when will I get my financial aid? So for the how will you receive the financial aid? You would have to contact the financial aid office or look at their website to sync your bank account and set up direct deposit. So instead of waiting for a check in the mail for money that you might have left over, you would set it up on your bank account, so just go straight there. So the way that you would do this is on your portal, there's probably a little option that says connect with account or something like electronic refund. If you find that on your portal, that's where you can sign up for it. And then for the when will I get my financial aid, typically it's 1 to 2 weeks before the start of each semester or quarter. Typically, again, it's just in time for your funds to go through to pay for your tuition and fees and anything else that the school might require. Because the way that this works is that you do your financial aid application, then they give you an offer letter, and then after that, the offer, once you accept your offer, it's going to go straight to the school from the FAFSA or California Dream Act. It's going to go straight to your school, and then they'll take whatever they need to pay, and then the rest you'll get it back. But I'll talk about that in the next slide. So next slide, please. Okay, so some students do receive a refund, which means that you'll get money back after you pay your tuition fees or housing if applicable. So a refund, again, is just money that comes straight back to you from the school. So some students receive money back after they pay their tuition, and then a big question might be, what do you do with this money? So first of all, pay your educational costs. So parking permits, maybe books, supplies, save it for rent if needed, and the rest, save it. You just never know where you're going to need any extra money, or let's say one semester or one quarter, your financial aid might not go through right away. It's good to have this backup money as a cushion just so you can stay enrolled in school. So save whatever you have, don't spend it if you don't need to. And then some students do have to accept loans, but don't let them totally scare you. A big tip is to always start with the subsidized loan. We're saying it over and over again because we want to make sure that subsidized loans, we like those. And again, this means no interest until you graduate. And if you pay it off before then cool, you don't have to worry about interest. But if you don't pay it off, it's also helpful because you will pay less overall. And if you do need to take out more in loans than the outstanding amount, so like let's say your portal says you owe $100 and you take out $100 in loan, okay, cool, it pays it off. But if you want to take 150 just in case, like let's say you don't have the money readily available for books, supplies, it's okay to take a little bit more. But it's just important to know like how much you're going to take out. Like, is it within like a realistic amount? So again, while you shouldn't let loans get in the way of your education, it's important to be mindful of how much you do take out. I personally did take out loans, and I let myself take out about $4,000 to $5,000 per year, and it's all subsidized. So I didn't really have to worry about too much interest until after I graduated. And now that I'm in school, it's paused. So I'm lucky that way. So again, highly recommend subsidize, and highly recommend to not take out too much, but also don't be afraid. It's fine.
Yeah, and I want to piggyback off a little bit of what Carla said there about the loans, because I personally did not take out any loans while I was in college because I was scared. And being the first one in my family to go to college, my family was really scared that I was going to graduate with this giant debt. So instead, I said, I'm not going to take a loan. I got 3 jobs instead, and it was not fun. It was not fun. And I don't recommend anyone to do that while being a full-time student. And so now looking back, yes, I did graduate debt-free because I didn't have to take out any loans, but I also probably would have enjoyed sleeping more and eating more comfortably instead of eating in my car while I was driving to work, or just not being able to hang out with my friends on the weekend because I had to work, and then I'd come home and then I would do my homework, and I would wake up and I would go to work and I would go to class and then do my homework. It was like an endless cycle, and it wasn't fun. And when I ended up getting a job right after college, and looking back, paying off a $1,000, $2,000 loan with 6 months of interest free, if it is subsidized, I could easily do that. And I think that I should have done that sooner, because I could have relaxed a little bit more and enjoyed your college experience. It shouldn't just be about working and going to school. Like, yes, you're there for your academics, you're there to be a scholar, but you don't want to be completely stressed the entire time. You need to take care of yourself, have mental health. And I definitely was just working far too much. So don't be afraid to take out a small loan. You have 4 years if it's subsidized, 4.5 years to pay it off. You got this, you can do this. Just wanted to mention that in there before I moved on. Go ahead, Carla.
Yeah, so I can definitely say that my experience was different. So I did only work like 20 hours per week. So, I mean, going to class 20 hours per week, like it's not that bad. I do have loans, and I did have to take out loans, but I do say that my experience was a little bit different, and I wish I could go back to that schedule. And even though I thought I was super busy before, but that's funny. And we got a question on the chat that says, how much is considered too much in loans? So it might just depend on the student and how much you need. So I took out enough that I needed to pay for my housing. So for me, it was like an extra 2 to 3, and I took out an extra 1,000, I want to say, like each quarter, just to make sure that I had money left over. And like, even though I did have a job and I did work often, I wanted to make sure that I have a little bit of cushion just in case, again, my financial year maybe didn't go through the next quarter or something like that. So I can't really give you a number, but for me, I knew that going 4 or 5 was over like the top. So for me, I averaged it to about 4 to 5, but then my last year I actually didn't have to take out any loans because I moved off campus finally. So that's another thing. Maybe don't live on campus all your 4 years. But so my last year I did end up getting a refund without taking loans, but it's just what I'd averaged it out. So I would say try not, I don't know. I don't want to give you a real number just because, but it just depends on your situation. If you feel that you can pay it back afterwards. So it's one of those like, it depends questions. All right, and next slide, please. Okay, so tuition and fees. I'm heard you all have heard this a lot lately, but let me just break it down for you a little bit. So tuition is just the classes in order for you to be a student enrolled in the classes, and you can go and take the classes and be part of it, be registered. Fees are other things that you need to pay in order to keep the university running. So every student has these fees also on their account, and these are mandatory. You can't really opt out of any. And then tuition fees also may vary from the prices and can cover different things depending on your school. So some of the fees that are very common are freshman fees, student services fees, such as printing or campus fees or anything else that your school might require. the recreational center. So most of the universities have a gym and they should be covered by your tuition and fees. I didn't know that until later on. So if it's free, it was for me. Some schools might have a green initiative fund. So if it's a more eco-friendly school, they might, ask for a little bit from each student and so they can upkeep their green initiative. Some campus transportations or shuttles. So when I was in Santa Barbara, we did have access to the Santa Barbara like system of bus system for free. All we had to do was show our student ID and a little sticker on it, and then we were good to go. And there might be also a food pantry fee. There could also be course materials fees, like if you're taking certain lab classes. Basically, any campus spaces or organizations might be run by these fees. Another important thing to know is to make sure to go to class. It's very expensive to not go to class. Again, you're paying tuition. And I saw a graphic earlier that said that your seat is worth about $30. I guess on average, there's some schools that might be worth more, or some might be less expensive. But think about it. Can you really afford to lose out on $30 often? So make sure you do go to class. It's expensive and you're there, right? So you're there to learn. And then you want to make the most out of what you're paying for. So again, take advantage of everything that your school might offer through those tuition and fees, and make sure you go to class. Next slide.
Yes. So bouncing off of that, the next thing we're going to talk about is the educational cost. These are things that are not included in your tuition. So maybe if you got a Cal grant and perhaps a Pell grant, and then maybe some scholarship where you're going to take out a small loan, that will be to cover typically your tuition first, which is and the fees, and that's including everything that Carla mentioned earlier in that last slide, and then maybe your housing. But there's other things that I'm going to discuss that are not included in that you're still going to have to find a way to pay for it on the side, which is where the job could come in, or maybe taking out a small loan like Carla did, just to kind of have some extra pocket change. So the first thing that we're going to talk about is books. You definitely do need to get your books for classes. Some classes may even require you to have multiple, maybe 1, 2, or 3 books for just one class alone. So that can get kind of expensive. I know when I first started, I just assumed that you had to buy them all from the bookstore because that's what people did on TV. And I thought, all right, I'm gonna do that as well. But it was kind of pricey, at least at UC Irvine. I noticed it was kind of expensive there. So it wasn't until an upperclassman told me when I was a freshman that you can actually borrow things from the library, like the textbooks. So every class should have the required textbook on hold at the library on campus that you can check out for about an hour, maybe an hour and a half at a time. You can't take them home with you, but if you know that it only takes you about an hour to read a chapter, then instead of buying the book, if you can't afford it, you can always go to the library, check it out for an hour, do your work there, and then just give it right back. And if nobody else is waiting for the book, then you can just check it out again, and then you have it for 2 hours. So that's something that can definitely work for a lot of students that I didn't know about until like my second year. But then also, I know some students don't work very well in the middle of the day. Some people are like night owls, and they just are able to do all their work after 1 a.m. That definitely was not me. But if that is you, then this probably isn't going to work for you. So something else that you can try is renting and or buying them online from Amazon or Chegg. It seems like this is pretty well-known knowledge, but again, I had no idea when I was a freshman. Someone had to tell me. So since you all are now college students, you should have a blankety blank at csudominguezhills.edu or at fullerton.edu or at ucirvine.edu. That's your student's email. And that's one of the student perks, is that if you use that to create an Amazon Prime account, then they'll give you up to 6 months for free. So definitely take advantage of that. You get 2-day free shipping, so you can go to class on the first day. If the professor says you definitely need this book, then you can get it in 2 days by your next time. I also once upon a time saw that I only needed chapter 1, just one chapter of an entire book, and Amazon actually had chapter 1 in the preview, so for free. So I kind of just used that, and that was good. So that's something else that you could consider doing on Amazon and or Chegg. The next thing is you can buy them from your classmates. Maybe you have a friend who took the class last semester or last quarter with the same professor, and you know you're going to use the same book. Maybe just ask them if you can borrow it or see if you can buy it off of them. Similar to that, there's something called Facebook, if you have never heard of it before. And on Facebook, they have these web pages called Free and for Sale. So many universities, if you just type in free and for sale at blank university, you'll find a webpage where students are just selling a bunch of their stuff, whether it's furniture or bikes or textbooks. And sometimes the students will just post on there like, hey, I took Abnormal Psychology 101 with Dr. Hamner. This is the book that he needs. I paid 80 for it. I'm selling it for 40. And then students will just bet on it. You have to be very careful though, stranger danger. You have to make sure that if you are going to do this to purchase books off of another student, just be safe about it, be smart about it. I would always tell the person, okay, let's meet up at the Starbucks on campus at 3 p.m. where it's completely full of people in broad daylight. You know, just go in, exchange, and you can go. But be very careful with this one. But I'm just saying it's another option for all of you in case you did not know that. And then finally, you can buy from the bookstore. Sometimes it will be cheaper. Sometimes it is more convenient because you can just walk in and they'll tell you exactly where it is. But definitely make sure you do your research before you get started because you just never know. There might be cheaper options elsewhere. All right, so that's it on books. The next thing we're going to talk about are just random supplies that you may not think that you need. Maybe you don't even need them, but you want them because they're free. Like Carla said earlier, if it's free, it's for me. So you want to check out some centers around campus, like the Counseling Center, the Career Center, the Cultural Center, the Academic Student Support Services Center, because they're always giving away free stuff to get students to enter these buildings. One of the things that I took advantage of the most was test booklets and Scantrons. I can't tell you how much I was freaking out the very first midterm I took in college when I didn't know that you had to buy your own test booklet and you had to buy your own Scantron. Like the professor didn't provide that for you. You had to come in and buy it. So I had to run back out of class, go to the bookstore and buy it and then run back in. The first day I had my first exam, I was freaking out because I didn't know that. So now you know, you have no excuse. But a lot of these places like the Career Center, the Counseling Center, Academic Support Services Center, they'll sometimes just give them out, especially during midterms week and finals week. They might just be boothing outside, or if you go and sit and ask, especially if you're Pell Grant eligible, you can get a lot of free stuff if you just ask for it. So make sure that you go and take advantage of all these things. The next thing is Rush Week, or Club Rush Week, or whatever your school may call it. But clubs, organizations, all those different activities that are happening on campus, they want students to get involved. So they're always going to be giving away free things like t-shirts, lanyards, water bottles, stickers. If it's free, just take it. I mean, like we said, the tuition and fees are paying for it. You're paying for it, and if you're getting FAFSA or California Dream Act money, someone's paying for it. So just take it. It's for you. Do not be ashamed. And then the last thing is university surveys. People love hearing your opinion on college students. They're always going to be blowing up your emails with spams of saying like, hey, what did you think about this workshop? What did you think about this event that you went to? How can we make it better? And if you submit it, you'll be entered to win a $50 Amazon gift card or a $200 Amazon gift card. I think one time my roommate won a vacuum and I took it. She didn't want it, it's still here. They're always giving away like dorm stuff. Just apply. It maybe only takes like 5 minutes of your day. And you never know what you can win. So I always fill them out. The next thing we're going to talk about is transportation. This one's going to be a little bit all over the place because it depends if you're going to be eventually dorming on campus in the near future or if you're going to be commuting. But there's different ways to get around campus or get to and fro campus or the local grocery store, the mall, the plaza, the movie theaters, whatnot. Some of them include free bus passes. So for some colleges, and this includes community colleges or Cal States or UCs or privates or whatnot, if you are low income, you may qualify just to get a free bus pass per semester, per quarter. You just need to go into one of these centers that I was discussing earlier and just inquire about them. So a lot of times they are free for all of you, including you may also be able to rent bikes around campus, especially the larger schools. They may have little bike racks around campus. If you just download an app, you just scan it, pay like $1 for 30 minutes, and you can just ride around campus. Especially if you're at a very big school and you only have 15 minutes to get from class number 1 to class number 2, it might be helpful for you to use that. There's also university shuttles and local buses that Carla was talking about earlier. They may take you from your dorm late at night to campus or from the library to your campus. They may be able to take you to the local mall, like I mentioned earlier, and these should be free for all students. So to definitely take a look to see what your school offers to you and what you're paying for, really. And the last one is some schools, not all of them, but some of them, especially the ones in like the urban areas, will give you a discounted Lyft or Uber code because that's just the most convenient way to get all the way around campus. So that's another option for some of you as well. Like I said, maybe not all of you will have this opportunity or get these resources. This may be different from school to school, but there's definitely perks out there. You just need to ask and look for them because they're not always publicly notified. And I'm gonna go back to books just because I forgot. Some schools actually let you just borrow books for free. Again, especially if you're like low income or Pell Grants, or if you got some kind of Cal Grant, if you go asking like, hey, where can I get free books, like rent them on campus, some student-run organizations will just collect donated books and you can borrow them for the semester and then give them right back at no charge. I didn't know about that until after I graduated. So definitely look out for that as well. And finally, food. So food is something that we definitely all need to eat. There is a stereotype that college students are supposed to eat like a cup of noodles every night. No, that is not okay. We cannot be eating cup of noodles every night. I needed to eat like a queen every single day so that I was able to do everything I had to do. So there's different ways to get food around campus on a budget. Number one, there's always free food at every event on campus because they know that college students are busy. You got class, you got clubs, you got work, you got another work, you got more class, you have to go hang out with your friends right after class because you need to socialize. The only way they're going to get college students to come in is by providing free food. They know that you may not even be interested in whatever they're talking about, but at least you showed up and you gained some knowledge and now you have free pizza. So I would say definitely go check these places out. That's one way you can do that. There's also, I know at UC Irvine, I can speak for them, that they have an app now that will tell you when an event is over and when they have leftover food that they're just going to throw away. So if anybody's students, faculty, like staff just wants to go in and grab some before they get rid of it, you can. And this, no questions asked, you just show up, you get an alert saying, hey, at HBCI 100, there's free sandwiches and fancy water. You can go get some, you just go grab it and go, that's it, no problem. Second thing is the food pantry. A lot of universities are starting to have this on their campus. If you are food insecure and you're struggling because you're like, oh, I can't afford to literally eat, it's such a big problem on university campuses and no one is really talking about this. So I'm really happy that now they're creating these food pantries on campuses. So again, you just walk in, no questions asked. You may have to fill out a quick survey in the beginning, just putting in some basic information for data collections. That way they can show the higher ups in the university saying, hey, look, people are utilizing this and we need money to keep this running. But I used it like 4 times. You just go in, they give you a reusable bag. It's like a mini grocery store. You can grab milk, cereal, bananas, broccoli, and they're usually just donated from local grocery stores who have excess, or maybe they're like about to go bad in 2 days, but they're still good. Maybe the cans are just dented a little bit and now they can't sell it because it doesn't look pretty. You send them over there to us and you can just grab as much as you want. So definitely take advantage of that. You can also apply for CalFresh. I never did because I heard a rumor that it would affect your financial aid. And I thought, oh no, I can't afford to lose my grants because I'm gonna apply for CalFresh. So I never did that. But that is a complete lie, and I didn't know about that until I got this job as a college advisor. And then I told my sister to do it, and she's been loving it. I think she gets like $100 a month, and it's been super helpful because she used to also go to the food pantry, but now with CalFresh, she doesn't have to. So definitely look into that. If you qualify, apply for it. And I would say the very last thing and most important is when you're gonna go grocery shopping by yourself or with your roommate or whoever it is, don't go when you're hungry. Make sure you have a list of what you need, of what you're going to make that week for dinner, and then you can buy what you need. And that's it. Stay away from the chip aisle, the soda. You don't need that. You need healthy food to keep you energized for your busy day. There's a question that says, how do you apply for CalFresh? I know that when y'all were going into your portals for the first time and you were checking to see, did it get accepted, did it not get accepted? There was a little box at the top that you just kept clicking like remind me later. That was one of them. It says, do you want to learn more about CalFresh? But I do know that for the Cal States, when you log into your Student Center portal again, at the very bottom right-hand corner, there should be something that's like additional resources, and the CalFresh application is on there. As for the UCs, I know HUC has a different portal when you're logging in, so it might be a little bit different, but we'll see if we can find it and see if we can send it to you. If you want, Kathy, you can just send, or anyone, if y'all want to just drop your email later, or I think we have it. Oh, perfect. Thanks, Alex, you're the best. There's the link, and you can go ahead and just click on that and apply for that as well. Again, it does not affect you financially. And that's all I have for educational costs. If you have any other questions, feel free to drop them on there as well. Okay. And so now we're going to go ahead and talk about the jobs. And we're going to start with work study because that's something that I did. The benefit of jobs is that it's another way, one, you get money, which is awesome. And two, it's another way for you to get involved on campus while still making some coin. So I did work study for 3 of my 4 years because I didn't know what work study was my first year. I saw it in my award letter and I freaked out. I just never looked at it again. So when you're applying for jobs on campus, so usually in the career links, or if you go to the career center and you say, hey, I'm looking for a job, where can I apply? You can filter by those jobs that are only being offered for work study. And those are specifically for the students who qualify for that work study amount. The benefit of work study is that they understand that because you're working on campus, that you are a student, that you're a scholar first. So that means that they're not going to overwork you, and they understand that, hey, it's going to be finals week next week. We know that you're all students. Maybe we're only going to work half the shift, or tell us when your first exam is. That way we can only schedule once your exam is over. They're a lot more accommodating, and they tend to be a little bit more flexible with your schedule because, again, they know that you're students first. Those are the pros. Another pro is that because it's on campus, it's definitely a shorter commute if you're already going on the day you have class, or if you're living on campus eventually. The con to work study is that typically, let's say they offered you $2,000. Some positions for work study may only be able to keep you hired and employed up until you reach those $2,000, because after that, they don't have any more funds to keep paying you to keep working there. Those are for only some positions on campus. For the position that I was working, I worked for a nonprofit on campus. I worked in preschools and helped little kids learn how to read and write and develop their social emotional development, all that fun stuff, right? That was a job that they told me, once you reach your $3,000, Christina, we can't keep paying you. Are you okay with that? And I said yes, because I love kids. But for other positions, maybe you're thinking, I know I need to keep getting paid. So you need to ask your employer during the interview, will you be able to pay me through external funds once my work study money runs out? Or are you pretty much, is your job terminated at that point? So that's something you need to bring up. A con to work study, I guess it's a pro, it's a con, depending on what your situation is. Usually they'll max you out on how many hours you can work. So I think at UC Irvine, it was 17 hours a week, and that's all you could work. You're not allowed to work more because they know that you're a scholar with homework and you need to do a lot more things, important things, than working your job. So that's the pros and cons to work study. I really liked it. I thought it was very flexible, and I did it for 3 years. But now Carla's going to give us her experience on having an on-campus non-work study job.
Yes. So I worked on campus almost all 4 years. I did have eligibility for work study, but my job did not require work study, so I didn't use my work study money. It wasn't the end of the world. I just made sure every year that I did my FAFSA, I picked yes, just in case I was going to need work study, because some jobs are only available to students who have work study on their financial aid. So something to keep in mind. For my on-campus job, same thing. Very similar pros. I was on campus, so it was basically short to no commute. I did have flexibility with my schedule. So basically I was able to tell them when I'm not available because I'm in class, and then I worked around that. It was pretty cool though, because I was able to have, a work shift in the morning and then go to class and then maybe have another shift, or, just have class, a shift, and then class. So it was really convenient because I didn't have to go home or anything. Yes, sometimes it felt a little hectic, but I felt happy when my day was ended, if I ended my day by 3 and I already went to 2 classes and already worked for the day. So that was pretty nice. And then we also didn't get maxed out on hours because it is an on-campus job and because we are students. But we weren't limited by, our work study fund. So as long as I had the job, I was good. I knew I was going to get paid as long as I worked. And then for finals week, my experience was different, but I think it's just because of the place I worked at. I did have to work, but it was because it was a computer lab and it had to be open for students during finals week, because I'm pretty sure that was a place that a lot of students came to focus on. So someone needed to keep it running right. But that wasn't the worst thing. I was able to manage my time in that way. So I think it helped me grow anyway. And then now Christy will talk about outside job.
Yeah. So there's another type of job, which is external or outside. I also did that. That could be anything from working at a McDonald's or working as a cashier at CVS, or working just at an additional organization that's not affiliated with your university. The pros to this, I guess, if you're really looking to make a lot of money while you're in college, is that if you say you're available and your boss wants to work you 30 hours a week, then you can. There's no limit. The school's not going to stop you from there. They don't know. It's none of their business what you want to do outside of class. The con may be commuting. If you're living on campus, if you're living near campus, I know I had a job that I had to drive an hour or two in traffic just to get there. And there was another external job that was just like 10 minutes away from my home, and I would commute back on the weekend. So that kind of just depends on your situation, but that's also an option. If you don't want to work on campus, that's cool. It's just that maybe your boss at your CVS, like I worked at CVS, he didn't really care if I had an exam or not. Like, he didn't know when finals week was. So if I wanted to take that weekend off to study, I had to tell him 2 weeks or 3 weeks in advance. And if the schedule was already made, then I had to call a coworker and beg them to switch shifts with me. And it was just a lot more stress that I didn't want to deal with, that you probably wouldn't have to worry about if you worked on campus. So there's pros and cons to everything. Just kind of check out to see which one is the best option for you. All right, so let's move on to the next slide. So now that we're done talking about jobs, whether or not you're planning on getting a job on campus or off campus, we definitely need y'all to start opening up your bank account if you haven't already. This seems like pretty basic knowledge. We're just going to go over it real quick. When you open your bank account, you want to make sure you have a checking and a savings account at the same time. Don't just get a checking, get that savings open like Carla said earlier. Save that extra money, especially if you're going to get a refund. If you're going to get extra money back from your financial aid, then you want to make sure that you're setting up a direct deposit, so that way when the money gets dispersed, it's going to go directly into your checking. And then from there, you should put the excess directly into your savings, because you never know when you're going to need it. But you know, the benefit of a debit card, you know, you don't have to worry about cash, especially now with this pandemic going on. You don't want to keep touching other people's money, so you want to make sure you have that cute little plastic that you can disinfect when you get home, and you can use that for your checking account. I have Chase college checking only because my dad had Chase when I was in college, and I just went with him one day. But the benefit of the Chase college checking account is that if you're a student, they won't charge you to have this open, whereas we know that other banks do charge you to have money in there. But as long as you're a college student, they won't charge you anything. I think you just need to have like $50 in their savings account to open that, and then after that, you're good. So we just put this on there as an example so that you know. I think Carla mentioned earlier that she has or had Wells Fargo, and it was the same thing. They didn't charge her either. So just do your research, but there's other accounts out there that you can open up that will not cost you anything. And that's all we had to say on the bank accounts. Just make sure you open one so that way you're able to get your funds as soon as possible.
All right, next slide, please. Credit. All right, let's talk about credit. I know it sounds like a very adult thing to worry about, but planning for your good credit starts now. And trust me, your future financial you will thank you. So credit is receiving something of value with the promise to pay it back. So some of the long-term benefits of taking care of your credit this early is that in the future, you will get approved for better credit cards. You would also get approved for better car loans, mortgages, and other loans. I know that sounds super like in the future, but I'm actually really happy that I took care of my credit. I don't know how I accidentally took care of my credit. I just made sure all my payments were on time. But I want to say I do have a pretty good credit. So I was able to get approved for a good car loan, and also I was able to rent an apartment. It's very common that your credit does get checked by jobs during your background check. Also, apartments ask for your credit. Interest rates are also determined by your score, and insurance. And the way that your scores are checked are by either hard inquiry, which means it's more of like an official, and it's typically checked for loans that you might be applying for. And you want to stay away from hard inquiry, so maybe don't apply for all the loans at once. This doesn't include student loans. So again, don't get scared of student loans. And then a soft inquiry is an overview of what your credit looks like. So this is more for the jobs and apartments. I like to think of it as official transcripts versus unofficial transcripts. Not really exactly the same, but you know, one's official, one's unofficial. And yes, I've been talking about scores, but basically your score gets categorized. So here on the screen, we do have a little circle that has poor, fair, good, very good, and exceptional. Typically, you want to stick between good and up. So good, very good, exceptional. The better score you have, again, better rates and more loans you might be eligible for. And this is, again, long-term type of thinking. So all this does go on behind the scenes of credit cards. So don't be scared to open one, but be careful how much you put on it and make sure you pay it back on time. I know there's some trick that if you pay it like half of the month before, so you make two payments, like halfway through the month, and then like right before the payment is due, it's supposed to help your credit. I don't know if it's true or not, but I do that sometimes. And then if you don't have to, don't close any credit card you have. So like, let's say you open one and you're scared of like going overboard with it. I don't know, hide it from yourself or tell someone to take care of it, but make sure that they don't use it. But don't close your credit, because that's how the credit is built. So the more lines of credit that you have, it's good as long as you know how to manage it. So it's kind of, I know it's kind of scary, but that's how your credit is built. And also, if you take out student loans, it's the way that you manage it and pay it back that helps you build your score as well. Again, I have student loan, but my credit is not bad at all. So that's why it's okay to take out student loans, and it helps you, build your credit and kind of manage it better. I know this is super long term and it sounds super scary, but it's important to start now. And so use it wisely, pay it back, and keep it open.
Yes, I'm gonna say that is 100% true, because I was scared to open a credit card as well, and I don't think I did until my last year in college. And by then, I'm sure Carla already had a lot better credit than me. I had to start from zero later on. So when I wanted to get a new car, I still needed my dad to co-sign with me. If I wanted to rent an apartment, I couldn't do it by myself. So it's definitely a benefit to open up a credit card, just a simple one, maybe just $500. Use it to buy your groceries when you go grocery shopping, and then just pay it off or pay it back immediately as soon as possible. And like Carla said, it can definitely help you. There's a lot more pros than we're told, I think, because I was definitely scared to open a credit card as well. Okay, so let's move on to the next slide, please. All right, so now what we're gonna do is gonna give you some tips on how to save money. I know we're running a little bit short on time, so I'm just gonna make this one really quick. But overall, the idea here is take advantage of what you have, and be careful, don't spend all your money on Starbucks. I would always buy Starbucks because, again, I saw it on TV. It's what people did in college, supposedly. I don't even like coffee that much, but I would buy it because it made me feel like a fancy college kid. But the next thing you know, it was $5 a day, $50 a week, and now I'm poor. So be careful when you're gonna make those purchases. Just think about what you need and what you want. It's okay to treat yourself. I ended up just saying, you know what, I'm not gonna buy myself a Starbucks all week. But on Friday, when I have my exam, right after the exam, I'm gonna walk straight over there and I'm gonna get myself whatever I wanted at the time. Usually it was a Frappuccino because I don't like coffee. So definitely think about that. The next thing I want you to look at is your student perks. You being a student gives you so many perks that I didn't take advantage of again until later. I remember one summer, my friends and I realized that as a student, you get discounts to theme parks all over California. So we just did like Six Flags, Disneyland, like the San Diego Zoo I'd never been to before, because they were like 40% off as a student. So take a look at that. If you want to go to the movie theaters, if you buy the movie tickets from the student center, they're so much cheaper, and then you can just go with your friends that day because you're buying them from the university. So take a look. Every school is going to be a little bit different, but there's definitely lots of discounts for being a college student everywhere. Just look for them, ask for it. The key here is to ask for what you want, and you maybe will probably receive. The next thing you want to look at is making sure that you're budgeting, like we said earlier in the beginning of the month. And if you're gonna go out to eat with your friends, just get a water. It's better for you, it's healthier, and I guarantee you everyone's gonna get a water because we're all broke college kids. So it's okay, just do it, don't be embarrassed. Everyone does it. And definitely pack a lunch. If you're gonna be on campus all day, 3 times a week, it's so easy to get tempted to go with your friends and say, hey, we're gonna go to Wendy's, you wanna come with us? Of course you wanna go, you wanna socialize, but then you're also gonna feel guilted to buy the burger when you have a perfectly good sandwich in your bag. Maybe just go with them, eat the sandwich, but buy some fries. You gotta compromise every now and then, so that way you're still socializing, but you're still saving money. And that's all I'm gonna say on this page, because I don't wanna take up too much of y'all's time, but just be smart. What do you want? What do you need? If that money does end up adding up. Okay, let's go to the next slide. Okay, so we're gonna end up giving y'all some last minute tips here. You need to remember to renew your FAFSA or your California Dream Act every year. Maybe this year, because you were a senior in high school, you had your counselor or your college advisor or your teachers reminding you about this. No one is going to remind you in college. And I almost forgot, had my very good friend not told me about it like a week before it was due. You get so caught up in your midterms and your clubs and you're making all these friends, and then you forget that you still need money for the next year. So it comes at you real quick. So I would say right now, pull out your phone or your calendar or whatever you use. On October 1st, the FAFSA and DREAM Act is going to open up. Put it in bold red letters saying fill out financial aid, and then set another event in the middle of November, because you might forget the first time, and then set another one for March 1st saying due tomorrow. That's what I had to do in college so I don't forget stuff. So make sure you do that by March 2nd. Otherwise, you won't be able to reap all the grants and scholarships that you got this year for next year. So that's what I'm going to say on FAFSA. Carla?
Let's talk about taxes. Okay, I'm just kidding. It's not all that much. But remember that this year you had to have your parents' taxes from 2018. And if you didn't have them, I'm sure some of you know how difficult that process was. So make sure that your parents are up to date with their taxes for your financial aid application. Again, maybe October 1st, you ask them for their taxes for 2019, because it's not going to be the same year, it's going to be the year prior. If there wasn't much of a change from the year before to this new year, the 2019, you will most likely get about the similar financial word letter. So just something to keep in mind. And yeah, so make sure that you have those secured. And also, you don't need to do taxes, like you yourself don't need to do taxes until you make about $12,000 per year. But then that would be for the next year. Let's say this year, 2020, you make 12,000. Then the next year, when you're filling out your taxes for 2020, then you'll need to do your own taxes. But just something to keep in mind. So don't worry about like, oh, do I need to do mine? Do I not? Do I still use my parents or not? I didn't have to do mine until like third, fourth year of college. So this is something that again might be a little bit later. And it doesn't have to be exactly 12,000. Each year it changes a little bit. So just make sure you kind of keep up to date with that. Next slide, please. Well, for now, we're going to ask you to think of any other questions that you might have. Please type them into the Q&A or the chat function on the bottom, and then we'll answer them on the next slide. So for this one, go ahead, Christine.
Okay, so we just wanted to give you all some resources for you in case you loved this presentation, or even if you didn't, if you still have more questions on college, financial aid, enrolling for classes, or anything else that you may think about. I know it's really hard to maybe get a hold of your college advisor or maybe your counselor since it's summer vacation. So you can go ahead and jot this down. We have a free College Access for All hotline, and it's available for the rest of the summer. It's just a bunch of college advisors such as ourselves. We're answering your questions from Monday through Friday, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. And it's a great opportunity. If you have any questions, you can feel free to give us a call. And it's completely free, so you don't have to worry about the cost or anything. If your parents have any questions, they can also call. We do have advisors who speak a variety of languages, so it's going to be very accessible. And that number is 323-870-8600, as you can see on the flyer there. Feel free to take a screenshot or whatnot. It's very helpful, and we are getting quite a few phone calls already, so don't be shy to call if you have any questions. And then also, of course, we have to promote our social media that we have out here. We do have an Instagram, a TikTok, and a Twitter. And it's not meant to spam your pages or anything. It's just to give y'all reminders such as, hey, the FAFSA or California DREAM Act is due on March 2nd. Make sure you do that. Or we're constantly posting scholarship opportunities. Maybe we're going to answer we tend to make videos or just put on Instagram of frequently asked questions that we get a lot of students ask us. So we're just going to put it out there all at once. It's pretty neat. I like to think they're kind of funny. So you can go ahead and just give us a little follow there if you would like to do so. And we're going to start having any questions after this. So I see that we do have one question here by Brian, and feel free if you have any other questions to drop them in the chat here. How often does an average student cook? I mean, I guess it just depends on how much you eat, right? And if you're dorming, I'm not sure if your universities are going to allow you to start dorming in the spring semester. If they do, then you're probably going to get a meal plan. So the answer to that question might be not too much, because all you have to do is just go to the what is it called? The cafeteria. See, I didn't dorm, so I don't know. What is it called?
It's, oh my gosh, what is it called? A food court? Something like that? I don't know. But I really like this question. That's a really good thing to think about. So my first year I did dorm. and I had access to the dining commons. There you go. Sorry, I had access to the dining commons. So that's where I would get all my food. And I know some people. I don't think you're allowed to do this, but I know someone who had a rice cooker in their dorm. So whenever they wanted rice, they just made their rice, and that was pretty cool. But for the most part, we would go to the dining commons and eat, 2 to 3 times a day. Or I know sometimes it gets a little boring. It's really good food. It just gets a little bit boring. But I would go to like some restaurants off campus. So my first year, I didn't cook at all. I wished I did, just because I feel like I wanted to learn more. But then once I moved to an on-campus apartment, I had my own kitchen. So then there I did cook a little bit more. I try to not spend too much money eating out. That's honestly inevitable, but I did what I could, and I did cook like maybe breakfast. Y'all, please be better about breakfast. I personally didn't eat that much breakfast, but you should please be healthy. I cooked, I want to say like maybe every 2 to 3 days. I try to meal prep. Also, please be healthier than me, because I would just make pasta and then heat it up, and that was my meal prep. So it just depends on like what you want to eat. And then also, again, I'm gonna plug the CalFresh again, or the food pantries. They do have food available for you to make, so then that might make this a little bit easier and a little bit less expensive. And yeah, maybe don't eat ramen like every day, because I think that's just a thing that they tell you on TV. I see. Oh, I saw another question. I'm just going to go ahead and read it out loud. So one of the questions was, if you were to choose getting checks instead of direct deposit, what would be the difference? So Alex, another advisor, went ahead and answered this for us. But definitely direct deposit is better. It's just, you don't want to wait for a check. You don't want it to get lost in the mail, especially if it might be thousands of dollars back. Again, you want to make sure you get your money as soon as possible. And I remember that feeling of opening up my bank account and suddenly I had like, was it 4 digits? That was crazy to me. But yeah, it might just be easier that way. And then you could put whatever into savings, again, because it's connected to your account. And then how do I get my financial aid? Again, it would just be you do your financial aid application, you get your offer, the school gets the money, that like their chunk of it, and then the rest will either go back to you, or if you need to take out loans, then you take out loans. But you get it through you would do it on your portal. Yeah.
Yeah, you would be able to then just connect it to your checking account that you should already have created or will create. And then if you do have any money left over, it will typically get deposited into that direct deposit bank account within about 2 weeks before your classes start. So that's how you'll get remaining financial aid if you do qualify for any. And then just going back to answer Brian's question about cooking, if you were living in an apartment, I lived in an apartment for the 3.5 years of my 4 years there. So you can spend some time cooking, but if you just meal prep, it does help you, because cooking every day does take up, like, I want to say in total, prepping, cooking, and then cleaning up can probably take you about an hour and a half, maybe 2 hours. And at the time you could have been studying or at least relaxing. So maybe spend those 2 hours to cook for 3 days worth of food, and now you just could keep reeating the same food. It kind of sucks, but I mean, hey, it's college. So as long as you're eating something, like I said, I like to eat like a queen. So my roommates and I were all wanting to eat like queen. So we just took turns. So one day, Mondays and Wednesdays, I cooked. Thursdays and Fridays, she cooked. Tuesday, we went out to eat after class. And then it kind of worked out because we were cooking for each other. And we would one would do dishes, one would cook. So maybe talk to your roommates and see if they're cool enough to do that. That definitely helped me.
I see another question by Brian. Do you have any tips about parking? So where I went to Santa Barbara, and there's like a little town outside of the college, and I know a lot of people would park on campus. Again, this was like for the people who lived around the area, but the parking was always super full. So I decided to pay for my parking. It was very expensive when I lived on campus. I can be transparent about it. I paid like about $600 just to have my car there, but it was because I came home very often. So I would drive from Santa Barbara back to the Valley. So then that way, like, I knew I wanted to have my car safe, or if I came back late, I wanted to make sure I had a secured parking. So that was just something that I splurged on. But there was some streets that I know were kind of far from campus, but they were still available for parking. But I was just kind of scared to leave my car out there. I know for students who might have commuted, I know this is based on other people's experience, not mine, but I know that when students commuted, like, they just made sure to buy their parking pass and then get there super early, just because some schools are very, very packed. So that's kind of, I feel like a thing that a lot of people might not talk about, but it's important to kind of know like your school and see what the parking patterns are. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Yeah, I know that at UC Irvine, we do have a lot of different types of apartment complexes around. That's pretty typical for schools that are found a little bit more in the urban or suburban area. So some apartments do advertise it as free parking at the university. So, or you can park for cheaper at your university, at your apartment, and then I would just take the shuttle to campus, which was free because I too would go home on the weekend. So I did need my car there. So I think I paid like $100 a month to park my car at my apartment, which was still expensive, but it was cheaper than buying a parking pass. And then I would just hop on the shuttle and just wait like 10 minutes so that it can take me for free to my classes. But I agree, if anyone's gonna be commuting like from home, then a lot of my friends who did that had to get here pretty early just to secure their spot because parking is such a huge problem at a university. That's what we said. Maybe if you live close enough, maybe carpool. I did carpool with a friend for a while. We just split the parking. We just lined up our classes. So we'd be on campus at the same time. And then we would just carpool back and forth. Better for the environment and better for your pocket.
Yeah, and also if you were to live somewhere close to campus, and so once I lived off campus, I biked to class. So I made sure to have like a reliable bike. I bought it off someone through the free and for sale pages that we spoke about earlier. And so you just, grab my backpack and just biked like 5-10 minutes to get to my class. And so that was another, I know it's not really parking, but it's another way of transportation from my home to the to class. But also at Santa Barbara, it was kind of hard to find bike parking sometimes, which is pretty funny. But okay. The next question I see is, would a debit card or credit card be better option for someone who doesn't really spend that much money? It kind of depends on how you want to control your money, just because, again, this is not as a financial advisor, but I'm just gonna tell you my experience. So I personally used credit cards just because I had some with good rewards, so like cashback, and then I would pay it off. So like, let's say I spent $30 for groceries, I put it on my card because I was gonna get rewards, but then I made sure to pay that one off. Or sometimes there's credit cards that say like no interest for a year. It could be kind of dangerous because you just kind of let it pile up. But then after, you don't have to pay interest. So that means like it'd be the same thing as paying it as long as you pay it back. But also debit card comes straight from your account. So you would like only be able to spend exactly what you have. And the reason why I would use credit cards is just because I was scared of like having no cash in case I really needed, well, not cash, but money, funds available. But I just made sure to like control how much I spend on my credit card and then just pay it off. So it's a very it depends question. I don't know if you want to add anything.
Okay, yeah. For the sake of time, I know we already went over a few minutes, so we're just going to go ahead and end it there. But if you have any questions, additional questions, you can always just call that hotline number, like I said earlier, and you can get those questions answered there.